When it comes to retirement, most people think you need to hit a specific arbitrary age like 65, or they think you need a vague, terrifying amount of money like $5 million dollars or a winning lottery ticket. We are conditioned to believe that retirement is a destination you arrive at only after you are too old to enjoy it. We picture it as a reward for a lifetime of suffering in a cubicle, a golden watch handed to you by a boss who barely knows your name, followed by 20 years of playing bingo and complaining about the weather. They tell you to just keep saving. They tell you to max out your 401k and hope for the best. They tell you to trust the system, even though the system seems to be designed to keep you working until your bones turn to dust. And usually, following this blind advice results in the exact same outcome. You work way longer than you need to because you are paralyzed by the fear of running out of money. Or worse, you never start saving seriously because the goalpost feels like it is on a different planet, so you just give up and buy a jet ski instead. The pain of this uncertainty is paralyzing. You are stuck in the rat race, not because you want to be, but because you don't know the exit code. You wake up, you go to work, you pay bills, and you pray that one day, magically, you will have enough. But without a definition of enough, you are running a marathon with no finish line. But if you want to quit your job while your knees still work, if you want to turn retirement from a distant dream into a simple math problem that you can solve on a napkin, it is actually easy. You don't need a pension, and you don't need to be a trust fund baby. You just need to understand the relationship between your spending and your investments. You just need the 4% rule. So, why is this specific percentage the key to unlocking your freedom? The logic behind the 4% rule is based on the mechanics of a perpetual money machine. To explain this, let's use an analogy. Imagine your life savings is a giant water tank sitting in your backyard. Your expenses, your rent, your food, your Netflix subscription, are a tap at the bottom of the tank. Every time you buy a taco or pay an electric bill, you open the tap and water drains out. Now, if you just shove cash under your mattress, that is a tank with no lid. The sun comes out, that's inflation, and evaporates the water. You drain the tap, the sun evaporates the rest, and eventually the tank is dry. You die broke. That is the nightmare. But the stock market is the rain. When you invest your money in a diversified portfolio, it rains on your tank. Historically, the market rains about 7 to 10% more water into the tank every year than it loses to evaporation. The 4% rule is the safe flow rate. It states that if you open the tap just enough to let 4% of the water out per year, the rain will refill the tank faster than you can drain it. In fact, in many scenarios, the tank doesn't just stay full, it overflows. You can drink from the tap for 30, 40, or 50 years, and the water level never drops to zero. The math is actually simple. It is derived from something called the Trinity study, but we don't need to be academics to use it. It looks like this. You take your annual spending and you multiply it by 25. Annual spending times 25 equals your freedom number. If you spend $40,000 a year to live a happy life, 40,000 times 25 equals $1 million. That is your finish line. Once you have $1 million invested, 4% of that is $40,000. You can withdraw that $40,000 every single year, adjust it for inflation, and statistically, you will likely never run out of money. The aha moment comes when you realize that retirement is not an age, it is a financial status. It is the moment your tank is big enough that the rain covers your thirst. Whether you are 30, 40, or 80, the math is exactly the same. You stop working for money, and your money starts working for you. Now that we know the formula, how do we actually build the tank without going insane? Step 1 is the easy first step, the lifestyle audit. You cannot multiply your spending by 25 if you don't know what your spending is. You need to calculate exactly how much it costs to be you for 1 year. Here's a joke for you. Humans are the only species that will complain about being broke while simultaneously spending $12 on a sandwich because they were too lazy to put 2 slices of bread together at home. We are terrible at estimating our costs. If I ask you how much you spend a year, you will guess a number that is about 30% lower than reality. You will forget car repairs, Christmas gifts, and the 300 times you went to Target for one thing and left with a kayak. You need to track every dollar for a few months. Be honest. Include the fun stuff. If you want to travel in retirement, include the travel money. If you want to eat beans and rice in retirement, include the bean money. Once you have that annual number, multiply it by 25. If your number is $1 million, don't panic. If your number is $2 million, don't panic. The number is just data. It tells you exactly how far away the finish line is. For the first time in your life, you aren't running in the dark. Step 2 is the secret step most people miss, the inflation adjustment. People misunderstand the rule. They think if I start with $1 million, I can withdraw $40,000 every year forever. No, the rule is smarter than that. In year 1, you withdraw $40,000, but in year 2, inflation makes life more expensive. A gallon of milk costs more, so you give yourself a raise. If inflation is 3%, in year 2, you withdraw $41,200. You adjust the withdrawal upward every single year to match the cost of living. The secret is that the 4% rule was designed to survive this. The stock market growth, the rain, is historically strong enough to cover both your withdrawal and the inflation raise. This is why you invest in stocks, the rain, and not just bonds or savings accounts, which are just puddles. You need the engine of capitalism to keep the tank full. Step 3 is the maintenance step, the flexibility guardrail. The 4% rule is a guideline, not a law of physics. Sometimes there is a drought. Sometimes the stock market crashes right after you retire. This is called sequence of returns risk, which is a fancy way of saying bad luck. If the market drops 20% the year you quit your job, you don't keep blindly taking out 4% of the original number. You tighten the tap. You engage the guardrails. Maybe for that year you don't take an inflation raise. Maybe you cut your spending to 3% for a year. Maybe you skip the trip to Hawaii and go camping instead. The maintenance step is understanding that you are the captain of the ship. If the waves get rough, you slow down. Research shows that if you are willing to be just a tiny bit flexible, cutting spending slightly during crashes, the success rate of the 4% rule goes from 95% to nearly 100%. You become invincible just by being willing to eat slightly cheaper pizza during a recession. Now, we have to do the reality check. I can hear the cynicism dripping from your brain right now. You might be thinking, John, saving $1 million is impossible. I make $50,000 a year. I can barely pay rent. This rule is for rich people. This is the most common obstacle, and it is a mental trap known as the all-or-nothing fallacy. The rebuttal is simple. The 4% rule works for any amount of money. Even if you never hit the full freedom number, hitting 50% of it changes your life. Let's say you need $1 million to never work again, but you only save $500,000. $500,000 times 4% equals $20,000 a year. That is $20,000 of passive income for the rest of your life. That doesn't mean you can retire completely, but it means you don't have to work a high-stress job anymore. You can take a fun job that pays less. You can work part-time. This is called barista fire. The 4% rule isn't just about quitting work. It's about buying freedom in chunks. Every $100,000 you save buys you a permanent $4,000 annual salary that you don't have to work for. Another excuse is, but what if the world ends? What if the stock market goes to zero? If the stock market goes to zero, money will be meaningless. We will be trading canned beans and ammunition. At that point, your 401k balance won't matter, but neither will your credit card debt. Preparing for the literal apocalypse is not a financial strategy. It's a Hollywood movie script. For every other scenario short of the apocalypse, recessions, wars, inflation, the 4% rule has historically held up. It survived the Great Depression. It survived the 2008 crash. It survived the 1970s inflation. Betting on the resilience of the global economy has always been a winning bet over a 30-year period. The math provides a path out of the grind. It shifts your focus from, I need to buy a nicer car, to, I need to fill the tank. Every dollar you spend on junk is a dollar that isn't generating rain. Every dollar you invest is a tiny worker bee that goes out and brings you back 4 cents forever. Eventually, you have enough bees that you don't have to work at all. That is the goal. So, to summarize, calculate your annual spending, multiply it by 25 to find your freedom number, invest in a diversified portfolio to capture the rain, and withdraw 4% annually to ensure your tank never runs dry. Anyway, I'm collecting donations in the form of subscribes to fund the next video.